Oh.
Hello. Hi, everyone. This is the Ann Phelim Scoop.
I'm Phelim McAleer.
And I'm Ann McElhenney.
So what have we got on the show today, Ann?
Oh my God, we've an awful lot.
Oh, and that is Top Cat, by the way.
That's Top Cat there. So we have an extraordinary amount of stuff to go through today. You know that we've just been in London. We just got back. We had quite the time last night in LAX. We're going
4 hours in LAX.
4 hours in LAX. And yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff going on in LA, including the blackouts that there have been, but courtesy of PG&E and Gavin Newsom. We're going to talk about the globalization of derangement that we noticed when we were in London between the Brexit people and the Trump people. Yeah. We're going to talk about the panel that Phelim was on, the climate change panel that Phelim was on.
We're going to talk about how fracking has now been banned by a Conservative government in England.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the Exxon Mobil climate change trial.
We're going to talk about Brompton Oratory. We're going to talk about Cardinal Newman.
We're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, the new Project Veritas video.
Fabulous video from Project Veritas.
How ABC covered up the Epstein case.
We're going to talk about the latest developments in the David Daleiden case. I am going to give the most unbelievable recipe for red pepper soup that everyone is going to end up writing to me and saying, thank you for the best recipe for soup ever given. And it's hat tip to my very dear friend Melanie for that. It's just the best soup recipe ever. And that's, and I'm going to give, a recommendation for a movie to watch, a feel-good movie to watch.
We're going to talk about your panel at the Battle of Ideas. We have a lot to talk about. And
so
obviously Scaredy at top have comments.
They missed us terribly, so they're a little bit frisky today.
As you can see, they're very all over our business.
Yeah, we just got back. So we're going to start right now as I said, so last night we got in after a 10.5-hour flight to spend 3 hours in trying to get through immigration. Then we got the Laxit, what they're calling Laxit, which is the fact that Uber and Lyft and taxis can't come to the terminal at LAX. So basically LAX terminal, when you fly into LA now, and any visitors, I just thought last night, it's unbelievable, any visitors coming to Southern California and coming to LA and coming to LAX are going to think they're in the middle. They think, oh my God, we got diverted to some kind of Tim Pot country, kind of banana republic.
We've flown into Uganda, Madagascar.
Never saw the like.
Never saw the like.
Never saw anything like it. I was amazed that people weren't going to. Are you worried that the cat's going to jump off of me there, Magda? Yeah, they're all a bit excited today. So anyway, terrible start to our return. But you know what? That's not the only thing that's completely nuts about California right now. Yes. As many people living in California have realised, we've had all these blackouts. So hundreds of thousands of people have been in the dark.
Millions.
In probably one of the richest places on the planet Earth.
Yes.
And all they have to look forward to is more of this. And a lot of very fun stuff is out there. There's a lot of very fun memes out there. Now the new pickup line, if you go to a club now in LA, I've been told this reliably by cool people that I know, no, not looking at anyone, Yvonne, but that you basically go to a club now and you say to somebody, and somebody will say to you, hey, hi, how you doing? So listen, just saw you across the room there. So here's the thing, do you have electricity? And it's like, yeah, I do. Oh, hey, listen, can I buy you a drink? Yes. So basically...
So millions of people without electricity. You know, you often hear this statistic, if California was a country, it'd be the 8th richest country in the world or the 12th country. Yeah, it's got millions of people with no electricity. You know, it's got an airport where it takes 4 hours to get out of.
Yeah.
It's... Yes. It's got typhoid.
It's got welcome to Los Angeles.
Cholera.
That's right. We got medieval diseases here.
Yes.
We got medieval diseases here. We got rats. We got the whole lot. So do come on down. The water is warm or something, and you may find some flotations in the water. They're not going to go there. But as you know, we were in London. We filmed the Brexit podcast, and by the way, thank you to everyone who's written such really nice things about the Brexit podcast. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's really worth having a look at. We spoke with Claire Fox, MEP, Brexit MEP, really brilliant, Battle of Ideas, Institute of Ideas,
former
communist. Also James Delling-Pole from Breitbart, who has the Delling Pod, and we talked to John Waters, the Irish writer, very brilliant, and just a really great conversation. I think a lot of people who watched were really impressed and basically said, can we have more of that? So we obviously want to do a lot more of that for you guys. So highly recommend that. But, when we were in London, I mean, one of the things we discussed was the globalization of derangement. So that, and we think that, Maybe that's a book, the globalization of globalization of derangement, of the derangement syndrome. So the way people have reacted to Trump becoming president and Brexit, very, very similar. Yeah. Very, very similar. Elitism, arrogance,
insults,
calling people, basically Neanderthal
racist,
for having an opinion that's not like yours. So really, really extraordinary stuff. But just before we get all cocky and delighted with ourselves and think that Boris Johnson is the saviour of the world, we were super disappointed. And it's actually, you actually said it's really depressing.
It's very depressing.
We were in London, what happened, Phelim? What was the headline that we saw?
Boris Johnson announced that there was going to be a moratorium or a ban on fracking in England. And it goes against all science.
Yeah.
All science. They talked about earthquakes. There are more. England is a coal mining country. Coal mining creates more tremors than all the fracking wells.
But even better than that, hydrothermal. Hydrothermal is responsible for an enormous amount of seismic activity. No one talks about that. So no one here in California, by the way, where we have the biggest hydrothermal plant on the planet Earth, which is up north of California, by the way, in a place that's obviously already California is very seismically active. Mm-hmm. And you have this massive hydrothermal plant, which no one disputes is responsible for constant weekly earthquakes. Some of them as much as over 4 on the Richter scale. But we're not going to talk about that. The kind of tremors that have been felt in Britain and that are connected in any way to fracking are things like the effect you'd feel if a truck went past your house.
Yeah, but also, I think the point is England is a coal mining country. There's coal mines all over the place. There was a miners' strike. Back in the day when I was young, people cared about coal miners because there was a miners' strike. So, you should have cut down coal mining. No one ever said, we have to stop coal mining because of tremors. So now they're saying, we have to stop fracking because of tremors. It's irrelevant. There's nothing there. There's no science there. There's no danger there. There's no risk there. And it's very depressing that a Conservative government has done this, has gone against science, has gone against fact.
The other thing, by the way, it's really worth emphasizing this because this fracking connection with seismic activity is something that it's kind of like they feel like, hello, do not bite me. They kind of feel, kind of a bit of that going on. I don't know what
very active.
No, he's a bit annoyed. We were away, but. One of the other things, I love this stuff, but one of the most effective forms of energy production is hydroelectric energy. Another thing, of course, that the environmentalists don't like. They don't think we should dam rivers. But interestingly enough, if you want to get seismic activity, hydroelectric is another thing that's responsible.
Well, as I said, actually, on my panel on climate change at the Battle of Ideas, I said, 20 people were killed by a actual earthquake created by a large dam in India. But as I said to my fellow panelists, you don't care about them because they're Indians.
Oh, I'd say that went down really well.
Oh, yeah. But so I was on a panel at the Battle of Ideas, and this is just a higher level political conference. And I was there. I was on a panel on climate change, and I was with somebody from the 1010 movement, the former head of the Green Party, Natalie Bennett, who's now Baroness Natalie Bennett, and then a couple of other guys who, one of them, climate change is bad, but we need nuclear, and then climate change is bad. But I was the only one there who really was actually saying, hold on a moment. And so I was next to Baroness Natalie Bennett.
Call me Natalie.
Call me Natalie, right? Baroness Bennett, call me Natalie. And I kept saying this, call me Natalie. And I'm sitting there going, I don't want to get personal, right? And I didn't. And I wish I had said this. There's one way I can call you Natalie, is don't accept a baronessy.
Yeah.
Don't accept it. I will call you Natalie then. Right. So then, so I then started saying, there's nothing, and it's one of the other guys, there's nothing better than fossil fuels for powering cities in the developing world and universities and factories and everything you need for a modern life. And I also said, and I just got a bit of a laugh, and how are they going to make cat videos in Africa without fossil fuels? Right? They have the right to make cat videos. They do.
You know what? That's a new slogan. Everyone has the right to make cat videos.
Everyone has the right. How are they going to power their little cameras and send it down the servers and all that and laugh? Do Africans not have the right to laugh at animal videos and make them and devote 10 seconds of their day to feel good like we all do about cat videos? Don't you agree, Scaredy and Top?
Yes.
And so I said this, and then Baroness, call me Natalie Bennett, said, I've never met people, with their love of fossil fuels so old-fashioned as me and this. And I'm going, and I'm sitting there going, and I wish I'd said it now, of course. You're the one with the baronetcy. A baronetcy is a 700, 800-year-old institution. There were barons at the time of Magna Carta, and you're the one accepted the baronetcy, not me, and you're accusing me of being old-fashioned. So, I've always said this, that when we came to this country first, we were told there were progressives and conservatives, and progressives believed in the future, and conservatives were harking back to some glorious past. Actually, progressives are regressives. They look back to windmills and worshipping the sun. The sun is going to solve everything. That's, sun energy is from 3,000 years ago. Wind energy, they stopped it in Holland 500 years ago. They're the old-fashioned ones. They're the regressive ones. Conservatives are the progressives. We need to rebrand, relabel, and call ourselves the real progressives.
And I was on a panel about The Life of Brian, the movie The Life of Brian, 40 years on. So apparently, as you probably know, The Life of Brian was banned in Ireland. And, a lot of people made an awful lot about the Life of Brian being banned by the, Catholic, priest-ridden Ireland and all of that. However, interestingly to note that it was also banned in 39 different councils in Britain at the time. So it was very cultural, rejection, if you like, of the movie. It was also banned in Singapore and Italy and Norway. But of course, the Norwegians don't have a sense of humour. Isn't that the kind of thing, Funny enough.
Is Greta Thunberg from Norway?
One of those
places.
Up there,
up there somewhere.
And we have more news about Greta Thunberg. But basically...
Top Cat, do not jump on Magda's sound deck.
Don't do that.
Top Cat, he was looking.
But basically...
Get your filthy mouth out of my water, too.
So basically... I've lost my train of thought now.
Yes.
Thank you, Phelim.
You're doing
The Life of Brian,
by all
40
these
years old.
banned
And
in Norway.
What it brought up was, the question was, back then they banned this movie. Have we, what are we like now? And of course, the panel, and basically even, the most progressive people on the panel, everyone agreed that actually things have got much, much worse now. That everything gets banned now. And we talked, one of the things that came up during it was this Count Dankula story, which I just thought was extraordinary. So a guy in Scotland that also he actually went for to become an MEP. He went in an election to become an MEP. Trained his pug or his girlfriend's pug to do the Sieg Heil, to do the Hitler salute, and he was prosecuted in the courts in Britain for hate crime. I mean, you can't hardly even believe. And he was convicted of a hate crime. It's kind of frightening, actually, in a way. The kind of stuff. But one of the things that I just really loved about doing the panel and that kind of struck me was, so I watched The Life of Brian again. And, many of you, will remember The Life of Brian. And of course, it's that there's a Brian guy who lives around the corner from Jesus. And, it isn't actually blasphemous because it doesn't, I certainly, my watching of it didn't make me think that it was blasphemous because they don't say that Brian is Jesus. They said he lived around the corner from Jesus. But one of the most amazing parts of the film is there is a dialogue during it when Brian Cleese and the other Python guys are having this conversation. And Eric Idle, one of the Python guys, says in the middle of this conversation, I want to be called Loretta from now on. Call me Loretta. Call me... And Brian and John Cleese looks at him and goes, what do you mean? I want to be a woman. What do you mean you want to be a woman? What do you mean you want to be a woman? And he says, I want to have babies. And John Cleese looks at him and goes, you can't have babies. You don't have a womb. And it's actually, and it goes on and on, and it goes on and on. And then the guy says, I have the right to want to be a woman. I have the right to want to have a baby. And then they all agree that he has the right to want to have babies and that people should fight for his right to want to have babies.
Why are you always on about women, Stan? I want to be one. What? I want to be a woman. From now on, I want you all to call me Loretta. What? It's my right as a man.
Well, why do you want to be Loretta, Stan?
I want to have babies.
You want to have babies?
It's every man's right to have babies if he wants them.
But you can't have babies.
Don't you oppress me.
I'm not oppressing you, Stan. You haven't got a womb. Where's the fetus going to gestate? You're going to keep it in a box?
Even though, as John Cleese, and at the very end, the killer line that ends that little comic sequence is John Cleese saying,
We shall fight the oppressors for your right to have babies, brother. Sister, sorry.
What's the point? What's the point of fighting for his right to have babies when he can't have babies?
It is symbolic of our struggle against oppression.
Symbolic of his struggle against reality.
The only thing that you're oppressed by, the only thing that you've got a problem with is reality, mate. Right? And I said at the panel, well, this is very funny. Let's flash forward 40 years. Now stop, Cat, and let me get my piece of paper here. That's so funny. Look at him. No, stop it, you. So flash forward 40 years. And like seriously, right? So that's a very funny sequence. Obviously, clearly the trans community weren't active 40 years ago, so no one had anything to say about the film for that. But here's what Julian Castro, serious presidential candidate for the Democrat Party, has to say 40 years on from that. And I'm going to give him the actual quote exactly from Julian Castro because I think it's important to get this right. And you know what that means, is that just because a woman, or let's also not forget someone in the trans community, a trans female is poor, doesn't mean they shouldn't have the right to exercise that right to choose. And so I absolutely would cover their right to have an abortion. So I'm going to break that, just if anyone didn't quite get that.
But a trans woman doesn't have a uterus.
You
doesn't have a womb.
Yeah, but so Julian Castro. So, here was this very funny joke from the Python group 40 years ago in the life of Brian, making a joke about the fact that trans women are not women and cannot have babies. Yet, you find 40 years later, Julian Castro, with a straight face, delivers that line.
Running for president.
So we are living in very, very strange times. We really do.
So
we definitely are.
What I liked about your panel, no, you wouldn't let me go for the panel.
I didn't want anyone to go to my panel.
Right, anyone that knew her. So, but anyway, I sneaked in and I didn't hear you speak, but it's going to be released on video, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if they videoed it. I think they taped it.
Oh, they taped it. But it ended with...
the panel all decided, wouldn't it be good if we all ended by singing Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, which is the song from the movie The Life of Brian.
So here's Anne and the panel and some great, really funny people on that panel.
Oh, yeah,
Will Franken,
No, Will Franken wasn't on the panel, but other people were on the panel. We talked about Will Franken. Yes. Phelim wasn't at my panel. But honestly, really great people on my panel. But here's us singing at the end of that panel, and Always Look on the Bright Side of Life.
Recorded by All Rights Reserved, Phelim McAleer Productions.
Thank you.
And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
I think that's quite funny. I thought I was quite good.
Yes. I know you can hear your dulcet tones
rise
to the occasion.
So just, we thought you'd enjoy that little musical interlude. And talking of music, one thing I just wanted, this is a kind of a little, we don't do this normally, a little tourist moment here. If any of you are going to London anytime soon or ever, I would say to you, I have a recommendation for something that you should do that I think is sublime and miraculous and perfect. So when my mother lived in London, she's Catholic. She used to go to the Brompton Oratory, where there is a Catholic, church, the Brompton Oratory in Knightsbridge. They have a sung Latin Mass at 11 o'clock every Sunday, and it is sublime, magnificent. The choir is ridiculous. I have never... And by the way, the homily was given... Everything was in Latin except for the homily and the readings. And the homily was given by a priest. I've actually written, onto their website to try and work out how he was, and just wrote and thanked him. But bizarrely, he talked about the basket of deplorables. So I was sitting there laughing. He was really nice and talked about Trump not in a negative way. Very, very interesting. But honestly, forget about the politics. I would highly recommend you to go to Brompton Oratory, and we're just going to play a tiny piece of music from that choir right now so that you just get a sense of the kind of music that I got to hear.
tell. But where is Brompton Oratory?
So Brompton Oratory is in Knightsbridge.
Knightsbridge,
You won't have a
central
you won't have
London.
a problem finding it. And the other thing that's interesting about Brompton Oratory, when I was sitting in the church behind the altar, they had replaced the painting that was behind the altar, and they'd put up a big massive portrait of Cardinal Newman, now blessed Cardinal Newman, who has become a saint. And you had a good story about Cardinal Newman. He's recently become a saint.
So Cardinal Newman was a famous convert from Protestantism
Beautiful man.
to Catholicism.
Extraordinary.
In the late 1800s, I believe.
Which would have been really would have been an incredibly brave
This is
and
when,
courageous move.
today is the 5th of November, right? And, many people think, 5th of November, Guy Fawkes, bonfires. Guy Fawkes was planting bombs in the cellars of the House of Commons to wipe out the ruling class of Britain so that he could establish a Catholic state in Britain.
So then the Catholics weren't that popular. Is that what you're saying?
Catholics were not that popular. So converting from Protestantism to Catholicism, you were seen not to be loyal. You were loyal. It's
disloyal to the
It's a bit
Queen.
like this, the trope about Jews. They're loyal to another statelet or another people. Catholics were viewed as that. They were loyal to Vatican, to the Rome. So to do that was to lose all your friends. But anyway, he converted, and so he had a huge Irish connection, and he founded University College Dublin, right, which is the one of the major universities in Ireland.
He wrote those extraordinary essays as well about education and stuff. Yeah.
So, massive educator, founded the major university in Ireland, one of the top.
Did he write the essay, The Idea of a University? Is that Newman or was that Burke? We'll look that up. But
so he's been risen to sainthood in the Vatican, and the Irish government didn't send anyone to represent themselves at the ceremony, and UCD didn't either.
University College Dublin.
He founded the university over 100 years ago, and they didn't send anyone. So then,
all you need to know about Ireland.
Then somebody kicked up a fuss, and literally the Irish government sent the undersecretary
to the undersecretary,
the assistant to the undersecretary of the undersecretary of education, and then that embarrassed UCD
to send
someone. But they were not going to send someone to the founders, the canonization of their founder, because he was religious.
No, not because he was religious, because he was Catholic. Because it's okay, and this is something that came up on my panel, by the way, about the life of Brian. It's okay to make fun of Christianity, particularly of Catholicism, but there are many, many other religions that it's not okay to make fun of, apparently.
Namaste.
Correct.
Allahu Akbar. Or something. So...
And then the other thing, I just want to say, another little tourist moment. Phelim's going to talk in a second about Exxon, and it's a brilliant story about Exxon. But another little shout out, if you are in London, and many of you already know this, but after I went to the Mass at the Brompton Oratory, which is just amazing, on Sunday, I then went with my wonderful niece to Harrods, as you do, to have a glass of champagne. And I would say the food hall in Harrods, it's just a sight to behold. You don't even have to buy anything. You can walk in and walk all around the place. And it feels like an acre of the most extraordinary food items to just look at. And, food porn is a big part of my life. So it was really I just highly recommend that. And Harrods is really gorgeous. I think we might throw up a photograph of Harrods food hall there.
And don't forget, we're going to have a recipe at the end, aren't we?
Oh my God, we're going to have a recipe. I swear, people who listen carefully to this recipe, you're going to be making this forever. And everyone who tastes it are going to think you're genius. And that's one of the slight problems with sharing recipes, is that you kind of take away you demystify. This is a great recipe.
Yeah, we have friends who think you're a genius.
Yeah, I know. And the problem is, you tell them then how you made the thing. They still think, though, the problem is these are people who literally have like the top of the range type of oven in their home in plastic still.
Yes.
You look into it. Nothing. It's never been run.
Yes.
But it's a gorgeous looking thing, but they don't know how to use it.
No, they think the cooker, they think the stove is a
oh, yeah, it's like an objet d'art.
It's in a design feature rather than an actual.
That? That's a bit of French.
And you know who we're talking about out there.
We do. You do know who you are.
You people up in Hollywood.
Yeah, you friends of ours.
You friends
Ali.
of ours.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Didn't mean to mention your name, Ali.
Didn't mean to mention your name, Ali, who has a very nice cooker that has never been used, except for to heat up stuff of mine. All right, moving on.
Okay.
Moving on. This is an amazing story about Exxon. And can I just say just introducing this story? No one's talking about this. Literally no one is talking about this.
Yeah, no one is literally talking about this. So Exxon...
is that evil Exxon film?
Exxon Mobil, yeah. So they're currently in court in New York and originally it was Exxon New. That was the hashtag.
Exxon New. Oh, Exxon New. That's with a Knew.
Clever playing words. So yeah, that they and the allegation was that they knew they were destroying the world, but because they were so obsessed with feeding their greedy shareholders and feeding their greedy profits, that they produced and burned oil anyway. You know, so there was a whole investigation, and lo and behold, 4 million documents later, lots of investigations later, they are now in court. And what they're being charged with has been reduced down to that when they decided, yes, we're going to publicly take climate change and into account when pricing projects, if there's going to be a return on investment, we're going to use this total for overall investments, and we're going to, but every country's different. So obviously there's no greenhouse gas tax in Saudi Arabia, but there is in Canada. So each project's going to be different. So they had different prices individually. So this was viewed, they're now being sued. It went from all you're doing is placating your greedy shareholders to, oh, New York Attorney General's office has to defend the innocent shareholders of ExxonMobil. So it's now because they were defrauded by the management, the upper tier management of ExxonMobil. So it's ridiculous. The case is not what people say it is. It's not about climate change. It's about some kind of weird fraud that I've read the transcripts, and do you know what? Even I don't understand what they're saying. You're
really clever.
It's an arcane accounting.
So it's basically another kind of witch hunt, basically, because I think I was reading about this Exxon thing. They've tried everything to bring down Exxon. So this is like the fourth thing. Yeah. So everything else has failed.
Do you remember the San Francisco trial?
Which we went to, the climate trial.
Yeah, Scope's monkey trial, and it was literally, the judge literally laughed it out of court. Yeah. Literally laughed it out of court. However, I have got the opening arguments were filmed. So and this is an exclusive for the Ann Phelim Scoop. You won't see these clips anywhere else. We've got them. So this is the opening to show. So yeah, this clip is about how they charged Exxon with the upper management defrauding their investors without interviewing the upper management. They basically they charged them and then said, now we're going to prove it.
God! So that's against due process, though, right?
It's madness. So this is the open. This is their lawyer saying, you charged us, and then you asked to interview Rex Tillerson, the CEO. You asked to interview the upper management. You're supposed to interview the upper management, and say, did you do this? And if they give you dodgy answers, charge them, not the other way around. So let's play this.
Let's watch this first clip.
Investigation in this case lasted 3 years. During the investigation, we gave them over 4 million pages of documents, and they were permitted to interview countless numbers of Exxon executives. Every person they wanted to interview, we produced. They came into their office, they were interviewed under oath, and they answered every question put to them. But not once in the 3-year investigation did they ask to interview Rex Tillerson. Not once in a 3-year investigation did they ask to interview any person on the management committee. Mr. Tillerson was never interviewed by them until a few months ago after the complaint was long filed. But during the investigation, they didn't ask to interview any senior management officials, including Mr. Tillerson. And for them to return a complaint with that type of allegation about how a fraud was sanctioned at the highest level, it speaks volumes about the integrity of the investigation and the integrity of the allegations in the complaint.
Well, that's extraordinary, Phil.
Yes. So it's all politics, and they show why this case was done in this way. Amazing. This investigation. Do you know who was there at the opening of the investigation? Right. When they announced we're going to investigate. Who was standing at the podium? Al Gore at the opening of a criminal investigation. Like, this is, talk about political. This is a political prosecution. It actually is a political prosecution. So let's watch what the lawyer says about that.
I mean, why would the New York AG bring such a meritless case? Why would we be in this courtroom for 3 weeks talking about cash flow projection models that have no impact on the books and records of the company? I submit the reason we're here is because former Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, in March of 2016, held a press conference. It was an extraordinary press conference for a regulator. He held it with former Vice President Al Gore and 19 other AGs. And they said that they had come together with Al Gore because the United States Congress basically had not been able to solve the problem of climate change. U.S. Congress was in gridlock. And they said they were going to use their law enforcement powers creatively to try to solve the problems of climate change. And one of the things they were going to do is go after companies like ExxonMobil, who they said had lied to the public. Well, once they gave that press conference, in all due respect, Your Honor, they never could clear ExxonMobil in that investigation. They could not clear, after that press conference, the largest fossil fuel company in the world. Mr. Schneiderman had boxed in his office and done a terrible disservice to his office.
This is why it's political. It's the kids of billionaires feeling funny. Remember one of the things we went to in London was the Lionel Shriver, Douglas Murray conversation, right?
About identity politics.
About identity politics. One thing that Lionel Shriver said that stuck with me, and this is an example of it, was, you know, this thing about white liberal guilt, right?
Or
guilt about climate change and all this. She says, it's not guilt. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's shame.
No, she says shame, or, you know, flugsham, flying shame. She says, it's not shame. She says, do you know what shame is? Shame makes you not able to leave the house. You know, shame means that you are embarrassed to the ends of your days. These people are not embarrassed. These people are very fond of leaving the house and protesting and sticking things in people's face. This is arrogance. This is moral superiority. It's not shame. And so the people behind this are the scions of the Rockefeller family, one of the richest family in America. So let's see what the Exxon defense attorney says about that.
An agenda of a meeting held 90 days before the press conference in March, on January 5, 2016, at the Rockefeller Family Fund office here in New York City. And the agenda states how people at the Rockefeller Fund had an agenda to vilify ExxonMobil falsely and to work with AGs as part of that vilification agenda.
Yeah, so the Attorney General is working with the Rockefeller Foundation, the scions of an oil family, to attack a fossil fuel company. So you can see all the videos, and I'm going to write a little piece as well on the videos, and you can see it on the Ann Phelim Scoop.
And on Instagram, we're going to put that stuff over. And this is not going to be the first. Obviously, the case is ongoing in New York, the Exxon case, and we're going to be reporting on that and giving updates as the case advances. And that actually brings us, talking of court cases that we're following. While we were away, David Daleiden continued to give evidence in court in San Francisco, and I've been looking through the transcripts and hearing news and talking to David about it. And it's kind of extraordinary, because I think one of my big takeouts about this, and having been up in the court, is that, this is a great thing about the court system and about juries. Juries are made up of regular folk, of regular people who have their shopping and their lives and their husbands and their children and all their regular stuff, and they're trying to lose weight, or they're having whatever, seeing the doctor or whatever. Those regular people who know regular things about the world are getting an irregular education on an extraordinary subject. And to give you an idea of something that they heard about, David was being questioned this last week about the 2020 documentary, about the people that spoke during the famous 2020 documentary with Mike Wallace, that was the first, if you like, indicator that there was a problem and where there was.
Yeah, that was in the year 2000.
In the year 2000,
ABC, back when ABC, actually, we're going to be talking about ABC later on.
Yes,
actually,
we are.
Back when they were a journalistic organisation.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
They did undercover reporting. You know that thing, like Project Veritas. Undercover is immoral and unethical. David Daleiden, undercover is immoral and unethical. In 2020.
Yeah.
In the year 2000, ABC did was it 60 Minutes or whatever their program was?
2020.
And they went undercover and they exposed Planned Parenthood selling baby parts. And then 15 years later, David did exactly the same. So they played the...
And one of the reasons, so one of the things that they've been, so David's defense for why he did everything was that he had a very, very well-developed suspicion that there was criminal felonies being perpetrated, and this is the reason that he did go undercover. This is the reason that he used false IDs. This is the reason that he did.
And he's allowed to under the law.
And you're allowed to under the law if you have the suspicion. So he's constantly trying to prove that. And during that testimony and during all of that, he's talking about the 2020 documentary. And the plaintiffs have come back at him and said that one of the people, Mr. Alberti, who is quoted in the 2020 documentary, withdrew when there was a congressional investigation afterwards. He withdrew a few of the things he had said. But it's interesting, and they kind of think, this is a killer thing now. They've really killed off David's reason for doing his investigation. But I just loved this, I mean, just imagine, if you will, that like a regular, because I know a lot of you guys who are listening to us know this abortion story very well and know a lot of the more shocking things. But regular folk don't know this stuff because this stuff does not get publicised. But here's something that they got to listen to just last week. And furthermore, my understanding is that Mr. Alberti has never recanted, signed any kind of affidavit questioning or walking back or in any way modifying his sworn testimony to Congress that he had seen 24-week-old twins drowned in a Planned Parenthood in Kansas, and that sometimes he cut open the chests of fetuses and saw that their hearts were still beating when he was harvesting from them. And I'm conscious of reading that with Magda in the room. She just isn't able for this stuff. But I'm just thinking of all the people in the jury who aren't able for that either and who were hearing this for the first time, that this was never recanted by one of the principal whistleblowers in the 2020 investigation. And it goes on from that, but I just thought I would just give you a couple of those. A slight more moment after that, again, David on the stand is being asked, and we saw the 2020 video. This is his lawyer asking David a question. Is there any recantation as to whether or not the doctor featured in that video, a Dr. Miles Jones, that he was admitting that they were projecting profits of potentially $50,000 a week? Do you remember that on the video? And David answers, yes, I remember that. That's nobody has recanted that. Is that correct? They ask, and the answer is no one has recanted that. So forget about their abortion business, but just from the selling of fetal body parts, this one particular outfit was talking about a profit of $50,000 a week.
Back in 2000.
And this is back in the day as well. And then the other part again, further on in that testimony. And with regard to the change, because one of the other things that comes up in David's investigation, and is very extremely disturbing, is that when he was interviewing people and they didn't know they were being interviewed, that's very funny. The cat has turned off my
We set up a nice timer here to the left.
A nice timer here.
A nice clock to the left, and the cat has just poked it with his foot.
So I'm no good now.
So we don't know. This podcast is probably going to last 3 hours now. Thanks, Scaredy.
Yeah, button down your jackets here. That's so funny. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But basically, the other question was, that abortion procedures were being altered in order for the practitioners of abortion to get the best bits, most intact bits, that they could sell. And in order to do that, they changed, again, this is illegal. It is illegal to change the abortion procedure.
And medically unethical.
Because
you're actually changing a medical procedure on a patient without their permission.
And so basically,
ulterior motives.
And again, the question was, and with regard to changing in abortion procedures, we saw a gentleman being interviewed. I believe it's from a company called AGF, whatever. He said that they were donating special syringes for the abortion procedures so they could get better fetal tissue. Do you remember that? Yes, that was James Bardsley. David corrects himself pronouncing the guy's name, who had trained Linda Tracy. And there was no recantation of his statement that we all saw and heard in the video, that they sometimes, that by doing this, by altering the procedure, it sometimes prolonged the abortion procedure and made it more uncomfortable. Yeah. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Now, the case continues on in San Francisco, and we're going to be keeping on monitoring that. But I
hope to go up to it as well.
And we hope to definitely get back up there. And
I have a few questions I'd like to ask some Planned Parenthood
I
people.
think that maybe that might be a really great idea.
Coming to a courthouse near you.
So tell us. So now that we're talking about all of that, tell us, Phelim, about something else that we've had in the news, which is this extraordinary, because we were talking about 2020, right? So back in the day, 2020 were great. They did these amazing documentaries. For example, they did this amazing undercover. Right, really funny, you know, when you think exactly the point you're making. That, you know, David Daleiden, worst person in the world. James O'Keefe, worst person in the world for doing undercover work. Back in the day, 2020 thought it was a great idea to do undercover work.
They used to win awards for doing undercover work. I mean, you got Pulitzer Prizes.
So what have we now discovered about ABC?
Well, James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, and I'm a big admirer of James's. He's been doing this CNN. He's been doing behind the media monoliths,
and then people have been volunteering stuff.
Yes,
people
so
have been
now
getting
they've
in
got
touch with him.
this wonderful video of the ABC anchor Amy Robach. Is it Robach? Speaking about the Jeffrey Epstein case, how she basically had the story 3 years ago, had the victim, had everything, and ABC told her there was not enough there.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in it because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like, every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal.
And, you know, that you could say, yeah, that's fair enough. But you know what? The thing that struck me as really, I've been in the newsrooms when this has happened, is that they mentioned Prince Andrew and all that. And then these are all allegations, right? And I'm not saying there's anything to it or not. And, you know, people are genuinely innocent until proven guilty. And I don't want to malign anyone's character here. But there was allegations about Prince Andrew, and they were told, and she says, but the palace got in touch and threatened us 1,000 different ways, including not giving us any more exclusive interviews if we didn't go ahead with this. And that struck me as very true, because
the kind of thing that people do.
The kind of thing that people do is say, you know, sure, you want, you run that story. If you don't run the story, we'll give you the next exclusive interview with Meghan or Prince William or the Queen or whatever it is. And you know, it had the ring of truth, and actually, I think the reason that is true proves that it is true is ABC were very quick, issued a response, not denying it, explaining it, normally they try and ignore James O'Keefe, but this had that ring of authenticity, and it's a hot mic, and she's perfectly made up, and she's speaking like a reporter, and you can just see the honesty in her face. Now, journalists are always complaining that nobody wants to run their stories. You know, can you believe me defending ABC here? But as a journalist, I do want to say, you know, like journalists are always going, oh, the editors don't understand what a genius I am, and I had the story, you know. But there's just a ring of truth of this, that ABC have a lot of questions to answer about it, and she said they had Clinton's name there as well. Again, a lot of very powerful people. And I think it's very interesting that the Epstein story and the Weinstein story and the Me Too story have all come out when Hillary Clinton was not elected president. I think they would not have come out because these are very powerful friends of Hillary Clinton's. And Me Too is a Clinton story, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so when the Clintons were powerful,
story,
nobody was going to run that.
Yeah.
And it's, by the way, it's not like they were going to, you know, send assassination. President Clinton was going to send assassination teams around. They were just going to deny, you know, them the exclusive interviews in the White House. And we spend a day with Hillary, you know, as she runs out for burgers for the team.
Runs errands. That's right.
Yeah, you know, all that kind of
Goes
stuff.
Goes to Costco. And stuff like that.
You know. So great scoop. from the Ann Phelim Scoop. Kudos to James for the great scoop.
Great scoop.
Go to we'll put it up on our Facebook and
links to Project Veritas, because it's a great story.
But don't forget to tweet it out too, because it'd be great to see all this.
People need to know about it. It's great. It's a great story.
It's trending.
Yeah.
So.
And then just, we're coming kind of to the end. I've actually got my timer is going good again.
Yeah.
But basically, one, I would do a shout out to the movie The Art of Racing in the Rain. And it's one of those kind of, it's family friendly. It's definitely family friendly viewing. And it's very, a film that makes you cry. I think anything that can make you do an involuntary thing, like laugh out loud or cry, it's a pretty extraordinary thing. But I think once you introduce animals, pets or children, you're pretty much onto a winner there in terms of getting people, all riled up and all over themselves. But anyone who's never had a pet, I would say to you, and you don't want to get a pet, I don't think you should watch this film. And I think you certainly shouldn't have your children watch it, because they're going to insist on getting a pet afterwards.
Sound, smells. I felt like I truly belonged.
Is this love?
Faster, Denny. Faster.
And it's funny, the one thing I would say about it is, I think they do a kind of a cowardly thing in a way. So, the thing about pets that I think and we've talked about this, the little problem with pets is that you'll outlive them. So if you have pets, you're going to be dealing with, there'll be grief along the way, And instead of kind of dealing with the grief thing head on, I think they try a little trick, and they do this kind of reincarnation idea. They have this idea that the dog passes away, the most brilliant dog that ever lived, basically. Obviously, the dog is amazing. And lots of people have dogs, and they have the best dogs that ever lived. And this dog, passes away, whatever, but he gets reincarnated in a little boy, and the boy is lovely and everything. But so I felt that was kind of, for me, it was a little cowardly move. It was like, there's no way people can handle the grief.
And of course, it's a popular family-friendly movie, so therefore the Rotten Tomato critics hated it and the public loved it. So when you see that kind of ratio, when the critics hate it and the public love it, watch it. Yeah,
that's one of the things that we do a lot, is look up, and it's worth doing. Look up, if you see a movie that's on and you think, I don't know, would we like that? Look on Rotten Tomatoes and look at what the critics, if the critics hated it and the audience liked it, it's pretty much guaranteed you're probably going to love it.
We need to move on to the recipe.
The recipe of the week. Okay, this is like and I'm going to look, I'm just looking right now on my phone, so that I'm going to look at the photographs you're looking at now, so I kind of can do that. I'm not giving you an actual recipe in a sense, but I probably will try and do that. But here's what you need.
We'll put it on the Facebook page.
You'll put it up on the Facebook page. You need 6 red peppers. 6 red peppers. You need about 3 or 4 stalks of celery. You need one potato, and you need 2 or 3 carrots, and a little bit of garlic and an onion. Chop, 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 chop.
You scared.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scaredy. Chop, 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 chop. It's all right. There you go, darling. So basically, chop everything up, right? Don't go nuts about chopping stuff up. Chop it up whatever way you want, because in the end, you're going to go with the immersion blender. If you don't have an immersion blender, then you probably have one of those. What do you call those things? What's that called, Yvonne? That thing, yeah, where you make a smoothie. That thing. One of them things, but otherwise an immersion blender.
A blender.
That's it, there you go. There's the technical term. Magda, by the way, who doesn't know much about cooking, even threw that one in there. She doesn't, she knows about smoothies. Yes. She knows about smoothies. Basically...
Magda was into smoothies before everyone else was.
Was she?
Yeah.
That's Magda. She's very progressive when it comes to food. Just not really, though, actually. Not really. She has that regressive thing with the ice cream. But anyway, so basically what you want to do is, first of all, melt some butter and I think, if it's coming up to Christmas, I think a great present for yourself, to buy yourself or to buy somebody that you really love, is a Dutch oven, is a crock pot. They're just lovely, and people have them forever. They'll give them on to the next generation.
Would you recommend a Dutch oven? You mean Le Creuset?
The Le Creuset, I know, it's a little bit expensive, but you'll never stop using it.
This program is not sponsored by Le Creuset, but if anyone
it's a great
from Le Creuset is out there.
So, but anyway, butter. I would fry off, gently fry some onion and the garlic, first of all, in the crock pot. Then you throw in your carrots, your celery, fry that off for a little while. Then you throw in your chopped up red pepper and your potato. Let that, and then you just add in chicken stock. Now you could make your own chicken stock. And by the way, if you have time in life, people should make their own chicken stock, because it is really gorgeous. By the way, I don't have time, but anyway. chicken stock, about a pint or so of that, and you can work out the consistency as you go along with this, because there's two different things you can do. You can always add extra water, or the other thing you might want to do is, if you're having it for like a special dinner, you can throw in cream in there, but you don't need cream for this recipe. Let that cook until all of those vegetables are kind of soft. Don't overcook it. So maybe I'd say it'll take about a half an hour. When that thing, boil it up and then bring it down to a simmer. And then when they're all cooked, just put your immersion blender in there. The immersion blender costs about $30. Everyone should have one. That's what you do. That's the technical thing. And it is just the most delicious soup. It's a great colour as well in a bowl, in a white. If you serve it in a white bowl, and you could drop in a little dollop of clotted cream or creme fraiche, or just pouring cream in there at the top before you serve it, and maybe just some parsley. It is just you won't believe how much you're going to love that recipe. You're going to use it forever. And by the way, very interesting, when we had Claire Fox on the podcast, I was saying this morning to Phelim, it's really funny. Like, she's so brilliant, and everyone and all of her things that she said were so brilliant and everything. And one of you guys out there, I meant to look up who it was, but anyway, thank you for sending in this question. I really appreciate it. She had talked about her recipe. She doesn't cook.
Gaelic coffee.
For Gaelic coffee, Irish coffee, which is a really, really nice thing. So what we're going to do is, by the way, next week, I'm going to make Irish coffee. Yvonne and I are the only drinkers in the group here. Yvonne and I will have, I'm going to do two versions of it, Yvonne. I'm going to do
Claire's?
my own version, and then Claire's version, which is a sweeter version. And we're going to just trade off and decide, and you can pan your one back and forth or whatever. And I'm going to do the main trick with Irish coffee is the pouring of the cream over the back of the spoon, so that the cream remains at the top and that the glass ends up looking like a Guinness. But we're going to do that
next week. We need to wrap up, because time is.
Other things that we need to say. Oh, I know one of the things that we wanted to say. One thing that you could do for us that would really, really help us, and we know, and you're being really kind. Everyone's been writing so nice things to us. Simple thing you could do for us is, if you buy a lot of stuff on Amazon, would you go to Amazon, sign up to Amazon Smile? It's there. It's very easy to find, right, Yvonne? It's very easy to find. Amazon Smile, and look for the Unreported Story Society. The Unreported Story Society. And
explain what Amazon Smile is.
So Amazon Smile will take a percent. You're going to be spending money anyway on Amazon. It'll take a percentage of that. Now, it won't add anything to what you've spent. It'll take a percentage of that. It'll give a percentage of that to us. And basically, once you set it up, it'll continue to do that all the time. And you don't have to worry about it again once you set it up.
It won't cost you anything.
Smile.amazon.com.
And go
smile.amazon.com.
And we're the Unreported Story Society.
And we're the Unreported Story Society. We are signed up in there, and it would just really help us.
Won't cost you a penny. It all comes from Amazon, so thank you.
Yeah, and so basically you're taking money off Amazon, so that has to be a good thing. Yeah.
Ooh.
No, I don't mean that in a bad way. And by the way, there's a product, an Amazon product that I want to do a shout out about next week, and I'm going to talk about that next week.
We're well over our time now.
Are we well over our time?
Yeah, because the videos.
Oh, because I didn't start on time and all that, because and the cat turned it off and all
the
that.
videos.
So thank you so much for being here, and keep on writing and telling us, what you think about everything, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
And I know we have a lot of viewers in England and the United Kingdom. Have a happy November 5th and the rest of the week, celebrating burning to death a Catholic terrorist.
As you do.
Called Guy Fawkes, because that's what you seem to like over there. I don't know. And
we'll see you the next time.
See you next week.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.